on demand. Youth Universe with your host, Dr. Rob Hughes.
Welcome to this edition of Youth Universe. We're pleased to be joined today with two special guests, co-authors of the Manual to Homelessness and Back, Ms. Andrea Scipio and Ms. Katilyn Price. Welcome to Youth Universe.
Thank you.
Glad that you have joined us today. Want to start off by just sharing a little bit more about the project that you two did together. I believe that it was done in Topeka, Kansas?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Take us a step back and what started this initiative to write this curriculum?
We served as AmeriCorps Vista Fellows, which is Volunteers in Service to America, through Washburn University. And so the assignment was at the Kansas Children's Discovery Center, where we were tasked with establishing a youth development program.
Yes.
And so in order to do that, it became necessary to identify which subset of youth do we want to work with.
Okay.
And so I found that the need was greatest in the middle school ages, because high school kids have clubs and different things that they're involved in. The elementary kids have after-school programs, you know, that are in abundance, but the middle school kids were kind of falling through the cracks.
Sure.
So we established a relationship with Boys and Girls Clubs of Topeka and wanted to determine, okay, what do you all as the youth want to do? Where do you want to serve? How do you want to make this happen? And I was probably there 4 or 5 months before Katie came, and all I had at that point was, okay, the kids want to work with the homeless population.
Okay.
And before they can work with the homeless, they need to know a little bit about it. So I was already formulating some ideas and saying we need to put a program together that we can teach them about how to work with homeless people and then make it real world for them. So let's just figure this out and, you know.
We sat down, I think it was my first week I started at work, so I jumped right in. And we sat down and talked to a couple representatives from the Topeka Rescue Mission that works with the homeless community, and just talked about storylines and talked about people and their experiences on what they had gone through, and you know, because we wanted to make it as real as possible for the kids.
Sure.
And that's where this whole idea kind of developed over that lunch meeting that we had, and I think we talked for probably 2.5, 3 hours. Started just different experiences that they had had with the homeless community in Topeka, because we wanted it to be as real as possible, and we really wanted it to be connected to the community.
Sure.
And so that's kind of where we started with an outline of the program, and then sat down over the next few weeks and started working it out.
Absolutely. So many people who want to make a difference think of programs and write curriculum about a variety of different things. But the issue of homelessness seems to be an area that many want to address, but it doesn't seem like we really have a firm grasp on the issue of homelessness. And here in the Southeast, here in Atlanta, homelessness is a significant issue, and we're going through many changes as a community, particularly with areas that were once not overly populated based on social and economic differences, that now here in the city of Atlanta, neighborhoods are being transformed and housing is being built, but it's not necessarily housing for the homeless population and community. So with a city like Atlanta, what, through your experiences, would you suggest or say that will allow people to have a greater sensitivity to the issue of homelessness?
I think one of the number one things is what we thought homelessness was 10 years ago is not what it is now. You have to look at what our economy went through, and people who were your next door neighbors, how they lost their jobs, got laid off. These were people that you knew your entire life, and all of a sudden they became homeless, couldn't make housing payments, or had to move to a smaller apartment. That's not what you would have said homeless was 10 years ago. So because of that, we don't know how to look at it anymore. It's a very different thing to us, and because it's people we know now, it's harder to address it because it's more personal.
The biggest thing that we wanted to impart to the kids was something that we also went through a learning phase with, and that's dismantling the stereotypes of what homelessness is. People have in their mind that the homeless population are the mentally ill, they're bedraggled, they're just dirty, they're nasty, they're, alcoholics. And while those cases do exist, that's not the sum total of the homeless population. So getting those kids to understand you can't just group everybody in and say, oh, they're homeless, that means. No, every person's circumstance and every family's story is different, and you have to understand that there are steps that take you to homelessness, and then understanding that everybody that's homeless is not necessarily going to be receptive to any kind of assistance to come out of homelessness for whatever their reasons may be. And you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay that you're not going to ever totally 100% eradicate the issue, but you need to provide those resources, safety nets, those steps, and those programs and projects that will help those who really do want to make a difference in their own lives.
Absolutely.
And I would say a big thing with the kids that we worked with that was shocking to them was they had never thought of kids being homeless. They had never thought of kids in their class might actually have to go to the shelter at night or might be couch surfing on grandma's couch. They had never thought of it that way, and that made them really change their attitudes toward, well, if it could be someone in my class, then you're right, I can't guess who it is. And so that took a lot to work them through, but that also really did get them to break down those stereotypes, because they're like, well, obviously my friends wouldn't have those problems. So sometimes you have to look for that way in.
Absolutely. And you bring up great points as far as how the economic shifts that we've had, particularly within the past 10 years, have really redefined the issue of homelessness. If you had to just say it in simple terms, with the changes included, what does homelessness look like today?
I would say it looks just like any other picture, but there's something different in the background of the picture. You still have intact families. You still have people that are working. Homeless doesn't mean jobless. It just means that something has transpired where everything is not in place to maintain that stable living environment. So I think the best way that I can make an analogy is, again, the subject of the picture is the same, but it's what's in the background that everybody doesn't necessarily see is what's probably going to be different.
And you two co-authored this curriculum that gave young people a significant experience of what it was like to be exposed to homelessness in a first-hand way. Can you walk us through a little bit of the curriculum and some of the experiences that the young people had and shared as a result of the program that you two created?
Well, the big thing with our program, again, was tearing down those stereotypes. So we started with an upper middle class American military family. And, you know, we showed them pictures, and we always started off with, we wanted to hear what they thought first before we told them what we had thought. And so we had the kids all sit down. Well, what do you think when you see this family? These are their bedrooms. These are their kitchens. You know, we had pictures of a very nice house. You know, what do you think of this family? That was day one. And so you got all those stereotypes out of their system. Oh, well, they're rich. Look at how many electronics they have. You know, they must go on this many vacations. And then the next day you bring up, well, the dad's had problems since he's gotten back from being deployed. You know, he's become abusive. What do you think now? And we started giving them little details to break down those stereotypes of, well, they looked perfect on the outside, but really we don't know what's going on in someone's home.
Absolutely.
And then from there, things slowly fell apart with the family. Things like they tried to stay at grandma's house to get away from dad for a while. Dad, you know, they tried the women's shelter, and we brought in guest speakers from the women's shelter and have them explain, you know, what would happen if they showed up. Then, you know, everything from them couch surfing to different families' houses, the kids not having food for lunch, and, you know, everything like that. Mom trying to find a job because she used to just be a stay-at-home mom, and all the way down to them ending up at the homeless shelter because they were sleeping in their car one night because they ran out of friends' houses to stay at. And that's where we did something different every day with the kids.
Sure.
And then that's where it led to a leadership group of those kids doing the homeless simulation.
I think some of the unintended consequences that were positive, we had a lot of kids that were in foster care in the program. And so a lot of these scenarios that we wove into this family's lives literally pinpricked a lot of these kids, and they you know, first of all, they trusted us and they had a relationship with us. So they began to open up about some of the things that they were experiencing. So what would maybe have taken 4 days to complete actually took 10 days because we wanted to take time to let them express where they were and, you know, make sure that we provided the necessary resources there. Bringing in people from the community was integral because it's about the community. Sure. And so at the end of the whole matter, we wanted these kids to be able to say, if I know somebody's homeless and I know they need XYZ, I know where to point them. I know how to tell them how to get it. But they had to live through it. And I think the testimony of the 6 weeks prior to the simulation was the fact that these kids didn't know if the family was real or not. Okay. We had kids going home asking their parents if this mother and her 2 kids could sleep in their basement. And
or
so
if they could bring backpacks in for the girls, or maybe if they go to my school, can I bring them in lunches? And we decided not to tell them that it was a made-up scenario because we were getting so much of them. They were showing so much love for these people that they didn't even know. We kind of didn't have the heart to tell them that it wasn't real, and we really wanted to see where it was going to go. And I mean, we made sure that it was a safe environment too for the kids that wanted to talk. I mean, everything from, we had the situation where we had a person from the women's shelter come in, and we did have a young man share his story about him and his aunt going through a lot of that. And but the kids knew that it was a safe environment. What was said in that room wasn't going to get dragged through school, wasn't anything like that. And so I think because we had built a situation like that, a lot more kids shared than we had never thought it was going to happen that way.
Absolutely. And I know that for a curriculum standpoint, that these were scenarios that were created. However, we know that they're created out of very real scenarios and situations, and that even though these may have been examples, that these are very real lived experiences by people who are in our community. So I want to thank you for the work that you did and continue to do in the areas that you're focused to bring spotlight to a very key social issue that we'll continue to have to address. One of the things that you mentioned was the compassion that you began to see just kind of develop or unfold in the lives of these young people. I want to hear a little bit more about that experience. What do you think began to touch these young people? I know that our community and our audience like to put their faith, their value, their morals into action. And I would love to hear through your experiences, how did this, one, allow for you to do that? And then two, what did you see in the way of community that unfolded with young people experiencing this and having the compassion come to the surface?
Well, one thing that we did in conjunction with this at the same time, we set up a community service project that the kids could be involved in. And our goal was to collect socks and underwear for the rescue mission. And so we had the kids help make posters, help get the boxes put together, you know, what was their goals, what did they want to do with this, and
why socks and underwear? It's
one of the least donated items at the rescue center, and so we really wanted to make sure if we were going to do something, it was something they really truly needed. And a lot of their outreach crew, that's what they keep in their backpacks when they're out to hand things out to people, because there's nothing like a clean pair of socks on a winter's day. And so because of that, we gave the kids an outlet for a lot of their compassion. They could work really hard on something for the community, and they talked to their families and their friends. They brought in socks and underwear themselves. We had boxes at all the fire departments, and they did a fantastic job with that. And so because we had that community service project going along at the same time, I think was really important, because it did give them an outlet to make them feel like they were helping someone when they were listening to such a hard situation.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate what you've been able to share so far, and I look forward to working with both of you ladies in the curriculum here in the Atlanta community. I believe that with our audience, YouthUniverse, and a lot of the people that have a strong interest in really tackling the issue of homelessness would benefit very much from your work. So again, appreciate you joining us today, and we look forward to having the ability to come back to YouthUniverse and share the stories of how we're implementing to Homelessness and Back with our co-authors Andrea Scipio and Katilyn Price.
Livestream TV, equipping pastors and leaders to broadcast their messages to millions through live event broadcasts, video on demand, mobile video, online radio networks, video, email, satellite, analytics, and more. Livestream Custom develops and efficiently manages your personal internet television network. Christian owned and operated. 24/7 international exposure, partnership opportunities, and a wide range of viewers. Livestream TV. Experience the life.
Welcome back to Youth Universe. Joining us is Traymone Deadwyler, the founder, director, and creative innovator at thinkforgood.org. Traymone, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Rob.
You've been doing some creative things here in the city of Atlanta in the way of community service, technology, and also innovating those areas onto the web and technology. Share with us, how are you bringing those worlds together?
Well, again, thanks, Rob, for having me. I think one of the things we do try to do at Think for Good, it's really a social platform for solutions. It's actually anyone can sign up. I think one of the things we try to do from our perspective is we think that community development has been contained in a vacuum. And a lot of times the people that are actually being served never have the opportunity to partake in designing those particular solutions or those interventions or those projects. And so we created thinkforgood.org to allow or really to re-democratize the community development process and get the people that are being served to be a part of the solution instead of being the ones that are just the dependents from the solution.
And you work with a variety of people in the community, but do you have a specific target group that is working with you on Think for Good projects?
Yeah, my typical, what I call service nerds are pretty much, folks in Generation X and all, as well as millennials that are really focused on social good as a whole. We have, those are folks that are artists, nonprofit leaders, folks in government, basically all over, covering all over the spectrum. And working just to figure out how we can do this thing together. And I think that's really been the key for us, is really having these different disciplines come together to really come up with great solutions.
As one of the organizers for Think for Good projects, where do you find many of the participants who want to come alongside and, one, join in the projects, but two, also be able to make suggestions for the types of projects that need to be done here in the city of Atlanta?
So I think that's the beauty of it. We actually go right into those communities and find, we work, if we want to work in the Bluff, or we want to work off of Bankhead, or if we're anywhere in the city, we actually go into the community and actually recruit volunteers directly from there. Not only to be volunteers, not only to be participants, but also to be designers of that intervention. We also have, within our network of other service nerds, folks from all outside of the community as well, but they all come together to figure out how we can come up with something great.
The thing I like about service learning is that it brings a community of people together across various divides of race, class, ethnicity, faith, even political differences. What are some ways in which Think for Good is initiating those conversations in our metro area?
So, our big dream is to actually do something citywide where we can get from a call from the mayor to actually come up with something great for the city, and that way we can actually, it's really a crowdsourcing platform, and I think that means you can invite folks from the left side or the left or the right, and even in those moderates to kind of come together to throw up to put up a solution that they feel is best for their community. I think that's the key, is really getting a variety of perspectives and a lot of different solutions from different disciplines and from different experiences to come together and figure out what really works. And that's really the key, is really making sure that everyone has an opportunity to contribute, because we believe that everyone has something to contribute.
Absolutely. And in the way of regional and city planning and even urban planning, being able to create innovative solutions that do not get stuck in the political process. What are some ways in which people are working across various disciplines, business community, the faith community, the nonprofit community, the philanthropic community? What are some suggestions that you have allowing Think for Good to be one of the leaders in bringing those worlds together?
So, we've always kind of stood on the platform of really of understanding and deploying collective impact models. What that means is understanding that, no one solution, no one tactic, no one, one project, program, or whatever it may be, can actually solve the issues of our time. You have to be comprehensive and holistic about when you're coming up with these interventions, and that's really going to be the key. And so that's one of the main things that we really focus on, is teaching people how to design from all different perspectives. If we look at homelessness in the city, you cannot face homelessness by just providing housing alone. You can't look at it by just providing a job at one particular time. You may look at behavioral health. You maybe look at other systemic pieces, look at it systemically, and then actually deploy it more so systematically, so that you can come up with something really great and really pull people from poverty, instead of having this kind of cycle of dependency that we see a lot of times.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that it's not just an issue that's going to be addressed politically, but also in many other ways and disciplines, and I believe that as well. Here in the state of Georgia, there's been some creative legislation that has gone forward in the way of supporting entrepreneurship, job development, crowdfunding, and crowdsourcing to complete some of these projects that are in the hearts and minds of people. Share with me how you may or may intend to in the future incorporate some of the recent changes that opens up the door for that type of work to go forward.
So again, this is about getting more people involved in the process. And I'm not, from a, philanthropy itself is any act of humanitarian aid. And so that's volunteering, also giving money. And so in the coming months, we'll also turn the crowdsourcing platform, which is thinkforgood.org, also into a crowdfunding platform as well. So not only are people able to support or to develop solutions online, but they can actually fund those solutions themselves as well, which provides a little bit, even more feedback, even more buy-in from those that develop it. And I think you can, folks that are actually willing to not only come up with the solution, but also fund it. I think you have some long-term volunteers and those that are really passionate about that work that I think you can really have some great impact with.
Absolutely, and congratulations on some good news that I've heard recently. You were recently named one of the 2014-2015 Aspen Fellows, so congratulations. Share with us how that experience will continue to help shape your work here in the city of Atlanta, and what are some of the experiences that you've had as being an Aspen Fellow?
So the Aspen Institute Emerging Nonprofit Leaders Fellowship is really, for me, it's one of the greatest experiences of my professional career and also personally. Again, one of them. I think it's definitely ranking in the top 3. It was an opportunity for us to really break, kind of get out of our normal day-to-day work of really being in the books and in the computer and really through the emails. And we were whisked off to a beautiful Aspen, Colorado, to really discuss society and looking at how our work fits into that. And there's there's only 12 of us a year, and so I was really in a blessed room. These guys, my colleagues and my other fellows were actually really awesome, really brilliant people. But it's an opportunity for us to really discuss society as a whole, and looking at our role as nonprofit leaders, our role as just leaders, our role as members of the state and citizens, in creating change and helping people, and overall helping society move to the, as Dr. King would say, that beloved community that we all want to achieve. And we have a lot more work to do. That was one of the things that we came from this last week. There's a lot more work to do, but I think the people that they had in that room, and I'd probably even say me, I think we're all dedicated to making that happen.
Well, I know that the work will go forward and that it will be an exciting year to come, and we look forward to tracking with you as you continue to go through your journey and bringing those learnings back here to the city of Atlanta. One last question for you. I know that you're a father as well as you are a man of faith.
Yes.
Share with me how those two areas of your life feed into your work. You present a holistic solution through Think for Good, and I believe it comes from the balance that you have in your life. Share with us how you achieve that balance, and how do you make sure that all of your life is represented in your work?
So, you know, I'm trying to raise other service nerds as well. I have 2 boys, and my oldest son definitely has come to basically every service project since he was born. You'll see, you know, pictures of us online. You'll see his video. He's been at every service project, and he has such a heart for service and people. Always trying to figure out how to, you know, assist when he sees lack or scarcity or any type of pain. He's such a loving young man. My youngest son is also, he's not quite there yet, but he's just 2, but he's also serving with me. And my wife, one of our first dates was actually a service project. And so that was what we wanted to be. We wanted to kind of create a family of faith that was also a family of service. And that's really been the main thing for us. We let our faith push us to higher levels, being able to use our faith as the thing that circumscribes us and keeps us, you know, moving forward, but also making sure that we are always in contact with with our fellow man as well. You know, there's been many times where we say we can't help but develop a project. As soon as we see a need, we're trying to figure out a way to fix it. And that's just something that I think I'm trying to balance and work with my family to do. It's been a great journey because I have my family with me the entire time, and you know, I don't think I could do it without them.
Well, we look forward to partnering with you on the many projects that are being generated through Think for Good. We look forward to introducing those projects to our audience, YouthUniverse. And one last question. What do you see as the next area that you will be going into here in the city of Atlanta in addressing some of the community service areas?
Well, I think, so one of the projects that we're looking at right now is really, you know, another one of my goals is really on the leadership development side. I think there's something in our network that I don't think people have really been able to tap into. We are piloting a project called Common Knowledge, spelled with a U, to really focus on, so let me just say this, I'm a TED, you know, almost like a TED Talk, you know, I really love TED Talks, let me just say that. I'm not really a junkie, but I really love TED Talks. And I think one of the things that I appreciate about them is that the learning that happens in such a small amount of time. And they're brilliant talks. But I think also there's some, again, going back to the idea that everyone has something to share, we wanted to start up a learning circle that would be for the nonprofit sector, for any group, a learning circle of women in tech that could share things, not just in tech, but, you know, about life in general and how, you know, what would happen if you get a group of people in a room that just wanted to teach each other and share something that they were passionate about. And I think that is something that I think will take us into a totally different plane, and what we're looking forward to. So that leadership development, which of course with the Think for Good platform, moving, you know, figuring out what the new issues are going to be, I think we'll ride that wave and figure out what happens next.
Well, excellent. Well, we look forward to having you come back and working alongside with you as we go and capture these stories of these young people really making a contribution here in the city of Atlanta. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
Are you searching for the right communication strategy? Trying to connect with your audience?
As a full-service media company, we've got solutions in public relations, media relations. We can manage your social media. We specialize in audio and video production and reputation management. If it's marketing you need, we can do it. Advertising, it's handled.
Get
IPMG.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Youth Universe. Our guests share very valuable information that I hope you're ready to put into direct action. We want to continue our conversation through Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and make sure you join us for the next Youth Universe. I'm Dr. Rob Hughes.